the first episode of Music's Great. I'm Justin Thompson. I'll be your host for this musical odyssey, or whatever. The idea here is I'll be talking to other comedians and musicians and artists about their favorite albums and the journey that led them to it. So hopefully along the way we'll discover something new and not be relying on the algorithms that have come to define what we discover and listen to. On this episode, I sat down with fellow comedian Trey Galyon a couple weeks ago to get things kicked off, and I'm excited to finally put this thing out. So, to quote the Black Eyed Peas, let's get it started. What, did you think I was going to do the uncensored version? Anyway, here's my chat with Trey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Trey Galyon.
Thanks for having me, Justin.
Hey, thank you for being here. Trey is a stand-up comedian.
Correct.
A motorcycle man.
I do. I have a motorcycle.
I
have motorcycle.
Yeah. And you know what? Dare I say a friend.
Oh, how dare you?
Yeah, I don't want to overstep bounds right away. But yeah, I've known you for, I don't know, like 10 years now, probably?
Yeah, for a while.
Yeah, met doing shows with Doug Benson.
Correct. Yeah. On that, it was Nashville, Huntsville, and Birmingham, right? That was the run we did?
Yeah, that was right. Yeah. All the greatest stops in comedy in the South.
We were talking about it the other night, though. That Huntsville show, you wouldn't think, but they have a fun little club there. And the crowd was really good.
Yeah, it was
a stoner crowd, so that helped us. But
yeah, his crowd's always fun, and I feel like we can slip into like that show. And
doing shows with Doug is not difficult as far as that goes. As far as it being, going on stage, it's going to be your crowd.
And something he does that I love is he'll walk out first and like open the show and then bring out the guests.
Yeah. And, he started doing that because he got tired of just getting openers that were kind of crummy in places where he didn't know any comics that he could have on the show. And so he started opening the shows, and it makes me more comfortable too. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or even, like a bigger show, like at like a larger music venue or a theater, if the headlining act who people came to see just comes on the mic and introduces the first comic, that also just makes it so much easier at like getting the crowd on their side, starting the show. And yeah, so it's amazing, so much in comedy, you're just going on there and having to do the work of warming up the crowd or opening up, and they're like, all right, well, okay. But now I got to wait, until my guy comes on. And it's very nice when you don't have to worry about that. Makes the show better, makes it better for the opening acts or guests.
Totally. Yeah, because they come in. Yeah, because you step on stage and they're ready to go, because Doug's already worked them over for 15 minutes or whatever. Yeah,
the feature spot or the guest spot it's the best place to be on a show with a headliner who's bringing a great crowd, who is there for comedy, there to have a good time. The kind of comedy you do is going to probably go over well. I mean, in the licensing and maybe DVDs. I'm sure DVDs have to exist, but it's not easy to find online.
Well, it's like the Beastie Boys thing. You couldn't make Paul's Boutique now because there's so many samples in it, that you literally couldn't make that album anymore because of all the rights garbage.
It's a wild mess, trying to put out music. That's why I don't do it. That's why I haven't tried to make...
stuck to putting out comedy. That's way better.
Hey, that's why I haven't tried to make Paul's Boutique today.
Fair enough. Yeah, I wake up every morning and I'm like, you know what? Today is not the day I'm going to make Paul's Boutique.
Yeah.
That's just too hard.
Hey, I've got my own problems over here. I'm just trying to go about my day, live my life, and I'm not making Paul's Boutique. And if I'm letting people down, I'm sorry.
No, you're not letting me down, man.
It's already there. It already exists.
I'll still hug you either way, man.
Yeah. But also there's such a thing now that songs will retroactively credit song it was influenced by or handle the royalties and the licensing after the fact. There was an Olivia Rodrigo song that they're like, hey, this sounds a lot like a Paramore song. And then they gave them songwriting credit on this song after, it was put out and it was released.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They've fessed up to it, kind of.
Yeah,
and
they're
we're
like-
like, man, we may have ripped that off a little bit.
Yeah. So,
You hear that, Vanilla Ice? Just cop to it and pay the money.
hey, George Harrison admitted that My Sweet Lord was inspired by another song, and they settled that out of court as well. So,
Yeah, that's the business side of things. That's always fun.
speaking of touring around the South, you recently completed quite a motorcycle trip, right?
I did. I took my 2003 Triumph Bonneville and I went from here up to Maine, from back for a couple weeks, went and did some shows up there and saw a medical grow facility. And then I started heading down south. And so I took the Bonneville essentially from Brooklyn down to Texas through Houston and then back, with a few stops along the way.
A few stops along the way.
Knoxville, Tennessee, represent.
So did you drive up to Maine in the winter?
No, that was the beginning of October.
Oh, okay. So right before.
Oh, yeah. So we should tell everybody that. So I left Brooklyn to head to Texas like the week of Halloween, the last week in October. Mm-hmm. And then I ended up getting back on January 2nd.
Quite the sabbatical.
Hey, yeah. But I mean, I was doing comedy shows and riding the motorcycle the whole way.
How did you find it driving a motorcycle to shows and just having to be like, all right, well, I hope it doesn't rain or something doesn't go wrong?
I mean, I lucked out. That turned out to be pretty all right because I only ran into, I also left enough space in between shows and stuff like that to where it was like, I don't have to be here by this date. So give yourself a little bit of a lag. So like if you look at the forecast and it's like, oh, it's raining. Okay, well, I'll stick around here for an extra day and then go. So I only got stuck on the way down there once when I was in Louisiana. And you're right by the Gulf, man. And those showers just pop up and sometimes they just don't stop. And so that happened to me. I got stuck and had to stay in Hammond, Louisiana, which I was trying to get to Baton Rouge that day. And so I was close enough.
Yeah. You made it there.
Yeah.
Can't say I've had the privilege of visiting lovely Hammond, Louisiana. I'm sure.
I mean, there's no need to. It's really just hotels and fast food joints. That's it. It's literally like.
Which is what most of America is.
Fair.
If you drive along the interstate anywhere, pull off on any exit.
Yeah.
Most of the time you're like, all right, this could be anywhere.
Fair.
I've had to do that too. So your plans change. I think that's kind of the best way to travel and tour is to not be like, I have a show every single night in a different city.
No, especially being the first time I taken a trip that far on a motorcycle. I was like, yeah, I better leave some gap in there just in case. And it turned out great because I got poison ivy in Knoxville and had to stick around there for like 4 extra days.
How did you get poison ivy?
I was cleaning up around. That's where my mom and brother live. My dad's from there. And so that's where they moved back there in 2014 after my grandma died. Because we've got a house and land that's been in the family for 100 years now. And so we didn't want to give that up. And it's just a little chunk of land.
Yeah, but it's something.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it got woods and the whole thing. It's nice. It's right outside of Knoxville. I mean, the mailing address is Knoxville, but it's like 15 minutes from downtown, but you're in the woods. Anyway, babbling. So cleaning up around the house and they caught it. And I knew better, because I've been around a while. Yeah,
you've been around. Hey, not your first time getting poison ivy.
So where I messed up was I didn't immediately go inside and shower off because I didn't realize I had gotten into it. But I was out there messing with weeds and leaves and stuff. And so I should have just immediately gone inside and showered off, but I didn't. And so it got all over my arms and went shot in the butt. And then they gave me prednisone to taper off of, but it wasn't a high enough dosage. Because I had really screwed myself with the poison ivy. So then after that wasn't clearing up, I called my dad's buddy who is a dermatologist. And after he got done laughing, he was like, yo, dude, here's what you do. Go back to that minor emergency center and tell the doctor to get you this. And it was like 20 milligram pills of prednisone. And I had to take 4 of those a day for like 4 days. And then cut back from there.
You're like, God, I gotta keep a schedule now. So I've never had is it just? I mean, it's itchy. It's like a rash.
Yeah,
and I imagine
and it gets all pussy and like little bubbles, and those bubbles will pop, and then you get more liquid and stuff. It's nasty. So yeah, you just load up with calamine lotion and try not to touch anything, and
Okay,
Yeah.
or
It's not fun. Just avoid poison.
Yeah.
Leaves of 3, let it be. If there's leaves of 3 and they're shiny, just stay away from it. Don't touch it.
I'm going to go on a limb and say we don't recommend getting poison ivy
At all.
Don't get into it.
At all.
Not
Because some
worth
people
it.
are super allergic to it, and it's really a problem for them. But yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Stay away from it.
Now, what do you think about Uma Thurman as poison ivy?
Yeah, now that was okay. I mean, the rest of the movie was kind of lame, but her as Poison Ivy, I bought it.
Yeah, it kind of works.
Yeah. I mean, really, just Uma Thurman in anything, basically.
Right. That was
such a great actress.
That was after Pulp Fiction, right?
I don't know. Was it? No. Maybe.
Yeah, it had to be. All right. Now, well, here's the beauty of recording a podcast on a couch without video. I can
Just look it up.
look it up.
Because we don't have a lookup guy. You don't have a producer guy.
Hey, Jerry, will you look up what year Uma Thurman played?
That was 1994.
Okay, yes. People. All right. So, yes, 97. So, Batman and Robin, 1997, directed by Joel Schumacher. So, yeah, 3 years after Pulp Fiction.
Wow. Pulp Fiction was 94.
Right.
Oh, I was right.
Crazy year. Pulp Fiction, Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, probably others. Those are the top of my mind in 94.
Yeah. I was struggling to get through A&M, Texas A&M, which I didn't. I failed out eventually.
And you landed on your feet just fine.
Yeah, totally. I think I'm doing all right.
I think you're doing amazing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, I think it works. Even fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger's goofy ass as Mr. Freeze also works. Those movies, like, as a kind of continuation on what Tim Burton was doing with Batman.
Yeah.
Not quite living up to it, but also like, okay, they're fun, they're wacky, campy.
I didn't mind the campy stuff, but it really was. It was like Schwarzenegger was, not okay with to me. That was like, I didn't like him as Dr. Freeze.
Dr. Freeze.
The big chill.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on. There was something else. Back to the trip. Road tripping.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Poison Ivy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You're shooting travelogues, making videos.
Yeah. Yeah. They're on YouTube. It's called Tripping with Trey.
Yeah, check it out. I watched one of them yesterday where you're changing out the filter and changing out the oil on your motorcycle.
Yeah, man, because I wrench on it too.
You wrench on it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I got some repairs in there too.
Yeah, I felt like watching the video. I was like, oh, this is educational. I almost learned something.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Like now you know where an oil filter on a Triumph Bonneville is, I'm sure.
Dude, hand me a Triumph Bonneville. I'll change the oil filter right now.
See?
Blindfolded.
There you go.
Upside
down, basically.
You have to get under there.
Yeah, you got to lie on your back.
Or you get a little tiny guy. Throw him under there.
Yeah, we didn't have a little tiny guy.
Yeah, no tiny guy under my car, under my bike. Okay.
So yeah, that was fun. And it was like you were saying, like I had to stay on the interstates on the way down there just because I did end up getting like crunched for time as far as I want to get there at this time. But then once I got to Texas and then the whole way back, I stayed off the interstate.
I feel like that's where you want to be out on the open road, just enjoying.
Dude, and yeah, like I've done extensive traveling in vehicles with internal combustion engines, mostly cars. And I tell you, any trip I take now, that's how I'll do it. You know, because you get in a car, especially doing the comedy gigs or whatever, you're not thinking about it. You're just like, get me there as quick as I can, you know? Yeah. And so you just get on the interstate and set the cruise control and light up a joint and go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you light up a joint, crack open a few brews, you know, you'll be there before you know it.
Exactly.
But with a motorcycle, it's like you're more constantly being, you know, aware of what the machine is doing, what's happening around you, and
it's a different state. Yeah,
you want to be off the interstate, enjoying.
And then also with the car, that was like, I'll drive all through the night. Like my favorite thing was to drive through the middle of the night. You know, I didn't do that on the motorcycle. As soon as the sun was going down, you know, I was off the road.
I've done so many shows where I drove like 4 or 5 hours back home at 1 a.m. midnight. Why not? It's like, hey, I want to save money. I don't want to spend money on a shitty motel in wherever, and I want to be back in my own bed. And if I get back at 4 or 5 in the morning, and that's fine by me.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's how like my schedule for a long time has been like, I'll go to bed at like 3 or 4 a.m. So it's just like, well, why not hop on the road and get home in a couple hours, if you have a gig that close.
So do you feel more worried about the fatigue of it? Like, all right, I got to be alert and doing this, or just enjoying the pace?
No, just enjoying the pace. And I mean, it would hit me after every segment, because I had some long ones where it was like, where I was putting in like 300 plus miles a day. And then you get done and you're like, oh, I went that far, or man, I've been on this thing for 6 hours. Because that was the other thing is like, I don't have a clock sitting in front of me on that Bonneville, because it's pretty stripped down, and I just stick my phone in my jacket. So I didn't have a clock that I was constantly looking at. I was just going.
Did you listen to any music while you ride?
Yeah. I put together some playlists. I got some speakers in the helmet.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I was wondering about that because I ride a Vespa around New York. I haven't taken it outside of the city. I'm curious about it. I want to, but it would be brutal. Like,
yeah, that's definitely don't get on the highway on that thing.
No, not at all. I mean, I've taken it up to 45 miles per hour probably, and that is like, nervous, So I can't imagine riding a full motorcycle at all, and especially on the highway, I would want to avoid it. You want to listen to something, but also be aware. Speakers in the helmet's probably a lot better than earbuds.
I mean, for me, it was just because I did want to have also, more outside noise, just in case. I didn't want to have stuff shoved in my ear, and there's a tractor trailer I don't notice barreling down on me or something. And then all of a sudden,
Oh, yeah. Especially, I need to be aware of everything happening 360 degrees around me. Yeah. And especially, riding the Vespa in the city, I just come to expect that any car at any time is going to pull an incredibly stupid maneuver.
Yeah, dude.
One close call I had colliding with a car, the worst one I should say, was driving down Ocean towards Ditmas Park where I lived at the time, and a car like kind of pulls around me and then like veers to the right to like start a 3-point turn. It's like, you just passed me. And then, I have to like slam the brakes and like try and avoid hitting this car. They're going to the right, and I'm trying to, then they, zag to the left to start the 3-point turn, end up dropping the bike, skidding my hand a little bit. I was fine. The bike was okay.
Thank goodness.
Then, it was just a close call. And
no blood.
Maybe a little scrape on my hand. I might have had gloves on and just got a little scrape on my elbow. I was fine. Walked away with just a scratch, and then the car is like turned the other direction at this point before they stop and roll out the window. Oh, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. Just fucking pay attention. Be careful or whatever.
It's amazing how many people in this city are so self-centered or act like they're the only person in the world when you live with 8 million people. Like, how your brain can get to that point is just beyond me. Like, you live around 8 million people. You have to be aware of that.
Yeah. Walking down the sidewalk, I'm aware of every other person in my vicinity.
Yeah,
like,
man.
If I'm going to be in the way, I'm stepping aside. I can't help it. I can't imagine existing in a way where that's not how you...
And then especially if you're in a car, which is thousands of pounds of metal that you're in, literally do a ton of damage.
Yeah.
You might want to pay attention.
Yeah, and especially if you're pulling to the left lane to pass a guy on a moped, maybe don't immediately do a 3-point turn. No. That's also illegal.
And it's funny. I say it in my main video at the end, is like my mom, she obviously gets worried when I'm traveling, and and I'm like, Mom, don't you understand? Like, once you get out of the city, the feeling of relief that comes over you when you're driving is amazing. It's just like, you're just like, oh, I'm free. Mm-hmm. I'm free. I'm away from the idiots for a while. Yeah. Like, driving in the city is so much more dangerous than getting on the interstate and going on a cross-country trip.
Yeah. And then you go over to fucking Knoxville or whatever, and they're like, wow, the traffic here is getting wild. These drivers don't know how to drive. And you're like, all right, I came from New York. Calm down.
Relax, man.
Yeah, relax.
No, you got this, hillbillies.
Yeah, it's fine. Any amount of other cars on the road, the traffic out here is getting ridiculous.
I will tell you, it is right outside of Knoxville, around Gatlinburg and Sevierville. That's becoming a hot spot. It's so hot they even have a Buc-ee's out there, which, was the largest Buc-ee's in the chain for a while until they opened the next one and said that was the largest one.
Yeah, every new Buc-ee's has to be bigger than the last. They're expanding on the east. They're out in Denver now?
Oh, maybe.
I think so. I can't claim Buc-ee's the same way people who are from Texas or lived in Texas can, but they're in Georgia,
right?
South Carolina. One's opening in North Carolina. They're down in Florida. They've eastward expansion is great. I'm all for it. I wear a Buc-ee's hat when I travel, and everywhere I go, people are like, Buc-ee's.
Well, I am from Texas, and I can claim them. Mm-hmm. And I will tell everybody this: if you want to go to Buc-ee's, enjoy. But the only thing Buc-ee's is good for is the bathrooms and the beef jerky. Yeah. And I guess in some places their gas is cheaper, but not necessarily in Texas. At least.
Yeah, I'm not going there for the fuel. It's for the experience. It's for,
Yeah, by all means, go and experience it and see what it is. But it's just a giant tourist trap.
Yeah.
I did miss out. They do have like the world's largest or longest car wash now at the Baytown one outside of Houston. And didn't get a chance to go through that, but have heard great things about it. Apparently they put on quite a late show in that car wash.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the Houston area, be sure to check out the Buc-ee's with the world's longest car wash.
It's in Baytown. It's the Baytown Buc-ee's. Everybody, the Baytown Buc-ee's is one of the bigger ones.
So I wear the hat when I travel. People are like, "Oh, Buc-ee's, you're from Texas?" I'm like, "Well, no, but come on, I'm just a fan." Aren't you?
Now it's not becoming that, where it's just like, it's becoming a little bit mainstream, which is weird.
Yeah, I was leaving a concert. A guy just like pointed at my hat and he's like, "Pulled pork." And it took me a second. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'm wearing the hat." Yeah, right on.
Yes, right on. You're a fan of very average pulled pork sandwiches. Cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hey, we're all just looking to connect.
Dude, my favorite is I also grew up in Philly, and I'll wear my Wawa gear around the country, and that to me is really amazing. Like I've had people literally all over the country be like, "Yo, Wawa," and then that's they've expanded a little bit now, but if somebody's wearing Wawa gear, there's a pretty good chance they're from Philly.
Yeah, fair to say. I think. Yeah, they're around the Philly, Jersey, and I know they're in Florida as well.
Yeah, they're in Florida, which has saved me a few times because I've spent the last few family trips in Florida, and luckily there've been Wawas around.
Well, when you're on the road, like you already said, a reliable bathroom fucking counts for a lot.
And that was the genius of Buc-ee's. When they first started, all of their billboards, every single one of the Buc-ee's billboards when they first started was about their clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
And then you go in there and you're like, "Oh, I see."
Yeah.
It is. It's quite a bathroom experience.
Yeah.
If you have to go to the bathroom on the road and there's a Buc-ee's nearby, go there.
You ever do the move where you go into like a chain restaurant and you pretend that you're finding a table and then you just go to the bathroom?
Yeah.
I love doing that.
Yeah.
Longhorn Steakhouse, Olive Garden, whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm just meeting someone and then.
Hotels are also good.
Hotels, great.
Just find the closest hotel and walk into the lobby.
Yeah. So if you don't have a Wawa or a Buc-ee's, just go into another place of business to do your business.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Well, we got to get a little creative from time to time in New York here. There's not a lot of public restrooms in the 5 boroughs.
No, but I also love doing that, going into a bar and just like beelining to the back, especially if it's like a bar, like, oh, I've been there for a show. I know where it is, and I can just do that.
Yeah, if it's during the day and there's hardly anybody in the bar and it's pretty noticeable, I'll just I'll throw a couple bucks on the bar for the bartender.
Yeah. Hey, man, you know what I'm doing. You're cool. Like, I'm not.
Oh, there's a couple emergency deuces where it was just like, yeah, man, here's a couple bucks. And the bartenders, both times I've left money, the bartenders were like, oh, thanks.
Yeah, they don't expect a tip on a toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will gladly. For that emergency duker that I just had to take, that was totally worth $2.
Hey, yeah, we had a code brown in here. So here's $2. we'll never speak of it again.
Yeah, man.
So that kind of brings up the next thing I want to ask you. You are from Philly, but you lived in Texas. What was your trajectory of residency?
Okay. Born in Boston. We lived there, Boston, Massachusetts. Lived there till I was 2, and then we went to Lexington, Kentucky for a year, Orlando, Florida for a year, and then when I was 5, we moved to Philly area, just north of Philly, and then lived there 1st grade through 8th grade, and then summer between 8th and 9th grade, we moved to Austin. I lived in Austin for 22 years.
Wow. And then you've been in New York since. I think that's kind of like a great time to probably switch, like schools, like that age, like middle school.
It was, but it wasn't, because in where I grew up outside of Philly, junior high was 7th through 9th grade. So I was getting ready to be the king of junior high. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, oh no, I'm a freshman in high school, because in Texas, it was 9th grade through 12th grade is high school.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know that. So this is a music podcast. We should talk about that more. Essentially, the premise of the show is I want to have on guests and ask them about their favorite album. So where were you when you remember like buying the first CD or cassette? Okay, or record, if you were that cool?
First cassette I bought was Beach Boys' Endless Summer, because that was one of the few that my parents would let me buy in front of them,
right?
Because I was a kid. And but the first album I got was before that, and it was from a kid in the neighborhood. I got Back in Black. And then I ended up trading that. It was a bad trade. I traded it for Quiet Riot, Meddle Health.
Oh, yeah. Downgrade for sure.
Not a bad album, but it's no Back in Black.
Yeah, Back in Black, like...
I was young.
There's like 5 hit singles on that album.
Yeah.
And then the other 5 songs are also rocking.
Yeah. I mean, I was young.
You didn't...
I learned from that, though.
Yeah. It's a growing experience. So Beach Boys Endless Summer, it's like a compilation album of their beachiest boy tunes.
It really was.
Because it's like all the songs before Pet Sounds, right?
Yes.
Essentially. So it's like all these hit songs, a little bit of research I did. I used to have that album on vinyl in my vinyl collecting days.
Nice.
I didn't get into it when I was a child, but, as an adult, Pet Sounds is great. Oh, let me go and hear these other songs that I heard over the years in TV and movies or radio. So it was after the film American Graffiti came out, featured a bunch of their songs, and then they put out this compilation of, it's not a greatest hits album, but it's
right. Because,
it's like the specific kind of songs and style.
Yeah, but I think like even In My Room might be on that too. I don't remember. We wore that thing out though. Because we took a lot of trips growing up, a lot of car trips, because family of 5, you're not going to fly nowhere. You go broke. And so we drove everywhere. And so that was the other thing, is there were only certain things when it was your turn to pick the music. It's not like I could be like, yo, let's throw in some Led Zeppelin. That would not have lasted long with my dad. My dad wasn't a big music guy. Yeah. Mom's more music.
My folks weren't huge music people. Like, they liked music. The radio was like, we'd hear it in the car. But by the time I was a kid, they had like gotten rid of all their vinyls and their 8 tracks. Yeah. And they had a few cassettes and CDs.
Yeah, when we listened to records, it was at Nanny and Papa's place.
Right.
Yeah,
and it wasn't like, hey, well, we got to like put this on here. Like, they didn't try and like show me like albums and artists and be like, this is like
interesting. Mine neither.
It kind of came a little later when I was a teenager, started playing guitar, got into AC/DC, great songs to learn when you're learning guitar. I bought Back in Black, and then it became like a thing me and my dad connected on, and like, oh, they're actually one of his favorite bands. So that was a great album. One of the first I also bought. Beach Boys, I came into them a little later, getting into Pet Sounds, and like, oh, great. So I think the idea of a compilation album for them is probably such a great idea, because if you're listening to those early albums like front to back, maybe there's
there's some stinkers in there, but then there's some hidden gems too. What's that? Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna be able to think of it. I'm a little too high.
That's all right.
I'd have to look it up.
We'll run through the track list of Endless Summer real quick. So we got Surfin' Safari, Surfer Girl,
right.
Catch a Wave,
there you go,
The Warmth of the Sun, Surfin' USA, So that's 2 songs out of 5 that, wait, 3 songs out of 5.
Serving.
Yeah, with surfing. Side 2, be true to your school.
Yeah, be true to your school now.
Little Deuce Coupe.
You
in my
don't know
room.
what I got.
Yeah. Shut down. Fun. Tell the daddy took the T-Bird away. I get around. Girls on the beach. Wendy, let him run wild. Don't worry, baby.
Let him run wild. Let him run wild is such a great one. And I found an alternative version of that is so good too, with the harmonies and stuff. They just changed up the harmonies a little bit. Yeah. That song is so fun. I love that song.
Side 4, California Girls. Girl, don't tell me. Help me, Rhonda. You're so good to me, and all summer long.
You're so good. You're so good to me is another great one.
So yeah, out of these,
I love you, love you. Na 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 na. You're my baby. Oh yeah. I wish I could sing. Anyway,
hey, singing isn't a prerequisite for being over here and talking about music and comedy and life. Even if you're loosely familiar with the Beach Boys, like I feel like if you heard me read that list of songs, you're like, okay, I recognize like 2/3
if
of
you
them.
don't recognize if you don't recognize 90% of those songs, then you don't like music, or you've never listened to music, because those just come up. All those will just come up everywhere. Like you're at the mall and some store will have it on.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a movie?
Yeah,
like you've probably heard some of these songs.
Yeah, for sure.
Very Americana, like there's nostalgia. Yeah, everything is great. We're having fun. Youth. They have boys in their name. Of course, the songs are about chasing girls and driving cars and, of course, surfing.
Yeah, man.
Are you a surfer? Have you surfed?
No, I tried it once and was like, okay, I'm going to stick to the skateboard. I would try it again for sure. It was just, I tried it at the Texas coast.
Yeah.
Which is not the best place. The Gulf of Mexico. Mexico is not a place to learn how to surf. Yeah,
I tried to learn how to surf. It was like in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. No. Also not great waves to try and surf over there either. So, yeah, I've only had a couple times out on the board in the water trying to do it. A thing, like, I feel like if I had been in the right place at the right time, I would have been all on it. But was definitely into skateboarding as a teenager. Until I fractured my elbow, and I'm like, all right, maybe I don't want to hurt myself too much.
Yeah, you slow down. You slow down quite a bit the older you get, and the longer it takes to heal from stuff.
Yeah, when you're 14, 15, I feel like you bounce back so quick, and you're out there like 2 days later, fearless.
Yeah. But then you have a tib fib, and you're 30, and you're like, okay, maybe I stick to the ditches and the bowls now and become that guy.
Yeah. You got to dig through the ditches, burn through the witches.
Yeah.
So a lot of great songs. So this was the first thing you remember your parents letting you get, and then it became like a mainstay on road trips, which easily, like, right? This feels like family friendly, crowd pleasers. Everyone in the car can like appreciate.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, we were in the car so much. It was like every Thanksgiving we were driving to Kiss. We were going to Tennessee. Every summer we were going to Tennessee. And then every other summer we were going to Colorado, to Fort Collins. And then the summers in between, we had other, because my parents, the group that they worked for, Campus Crusade, they'd have their staff training every other summer at Colorado State in Fort Collins. So we'd go and stay in the dorms and run around campus and stuff like that during the summer. But then every other summer they would pick some random spot where they would do it.
So you got around.
I logged a lot of miles as a kid, sitting in a station wagon and then in a pimp ass conversion van.
Songs about being on the road, driving a car, perfectly fitting.
Yeah, man.
Where did you pick up the album? Or it was a cassette?
It was a cassette.
And,
in the old school, big long plastic things that they used to put the cassettes in.
Was it a
store.
2 cassette set? Like
no, one double. Double the songs on both sides or whatever.
Yeah, I'm looking at it here. It looks like it was 2 discs on vinyl. So, I don't know how much audio fits on a side of a cassette. I know, a CD, a compact disc, it's like roughly a little over an hour. So some of those albums,
This one was a fat reel, Most of the regular albums you got, you got used to the size of the reel, that you could see through the little window there, the peephole. But this one was obviously fat reel. So it was they just put more tape in there.
Love a fat reel.
Right? Who doesn't? So, yeah.
Well, I think you could do a lot worse for the first kind of music that you buy and own, you know, like.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I could have done way worse.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, there were some Christian rock albums in there, but that wasn't the first purchase.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Of course. Back in Black. Yeah. Very formative for me. Came a little later.
Well, and a lot of that too was like, you know, I don't know how much the call. I'd have to talk to my friends' kids, but like, yeah, and even in elementary school, the kids on the back of the bus, the music they would play, they were playing Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and not stuff you would imagine like a first, second grader listening to, which they probably wouldn't. But we had a bunch of sixth graders in the back of the bus that were playing that stuff, you know? And so you get exposed. So I got exposed to it pretty early on. And then this was the weirdest thing too, was like our music teacher at this school in sixth grade music class, we listened to Tommy, the Who musical.
Who, yeah.
We listened to the whole thing from front to back.
That's amazing. I definitely had a teacher in high school who burned copies of some CDs for me. He's like, "Oh, here, you like Pink Floyd, but you haven't heard this one."
Oh yeah, never had that, but
but it came a little later as I was learning guitar and figuring out what I like. I had an older brother, so a lot of what I was exposed to, if it wasn't the radio, it was like him. Yeah. And of course, at that time, I was telling you this before recording. It's like, oh yeah, like what I was hearing on the school bus. Yeah, you're like a lot of Limp Bizkit. I'm like, yeah, Limp Bizkit, Kid Rock. Yeah. I definitely remember Biggie and Tupac like on the school bus, you know, from other kids that were in that, and like, oh yeah, that was contemporary, maybe a little later, but there was stuff that I can look back and be like, oh yeah, that was great. Stuff that we look back at and we're like, Pink Floyd though was definitely huge, and we're gonna probably talk about that more now, right? Like the journey.
That is a cornerstone of my music, at least my music adventure, you know, for sure.
So when asked, let's talk about your favorite album of all time, and you say it's
Meddle, probably.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm saying that as like, that's probably not even I probably listen to The Wall more than Meddle over the course of my life.
Right.
But Meddle is such a cool album to me because there's like a little bit of everything on that one.
Yeah.
And there's some really great tunes on there.
Yeah. Definitely some great stuff on it. And echoes, you know, like 20 minutes, like, yeah.
With the whale noises and the whole thing.
I don't know. For me, it was Dark Side. You know, I'd listened to that more than The Wall. And I think asking someone their favorite album is such a kind of tough question. But I'm like, all right, what's the album I've heard the most? If that's the metric, it's probably Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah.
Through that, like, all right, then it became like, all right, listen to The Wall more, and then, you know,
and some of those albums really are the ones where now in my journey, you really get into it's like, okay, this album is tied to this memory, and that album is tied to that memory.
Yeah, and you know, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and all the other.
Yeah,
you know,
Animals is so good too. Yeah, Pink Floyd. Turns out Pink Floyd was just really good at making music.
Right, and if Roger Waters and David Gilmour can't put their issues aside, what do we hope that we can do between the Democrats and Republicans?
Yeah.
Of course, they don't need the money, and they'll play shows where it's a $200 ticket to see Roger Waters or David Gilmour, you know, but it's crazy that they're both still alive and touring and just not doing it together.
Yeah, I know. I've come close to seeing Roger Waters. But just haven't pulled the trigger on it. I mean, mainly because I'm cheap. Yeah. And because I remember when concerts were cheap and don't like what Ticketmaster and Live Nation are doing. But also, I would almost feel like, I mean, because I know I'd enjoy it, but I'd feel so guilty the whole time.
You're like, oh my God.
Being like, oh, this isn't Pink Floyd, though.
I know.
It is, but it isn't.
That's how I felt seeing David Byrne's Broadway show. I'm like, this is cool, but you know, it'd be really cool
if it was the rest of the Talking Heads up there.
Yeah, if it was fucking Talking Heads. Yeah. Which, that was a really interesting kind of experience because, you know, and then a theater, everyone's quiet, sitting down, polite clapping. He's opening with some of the solo songs. You know, there are a few songs in. There's like one, God bless her, one middle-aged chick, like kind of in the center, a couple rows back, who's the first one that starts getting up and throwing her arms around dancing. Everyone else is still like, oh, it's a theater. How do we act at this show? But then by the time it's the climax of the show, they play Burning Down the House. The whole floor, everybody's on their feet. And,
that's awesome.
You know, it's a really cool experience. So yeah, happy
They're
to
like,
get
put
that.
on the big suit.
Right.
Put on the big suit.
And he's like, actually, I'm doing something different right now. Yeah.
Whatever, man. Put on the big suit.
Yeah. He can do whatever he wants to do, but
Yeah.
in the past year or so, Talking Heads appearing as a group, doing promotion for the anniversary of Stop Making Sense, talking about their career, still like not wanting to tour together, you know?
Yeah, that's bananas. I did see David Byrne over here at Prospect Park.
Just
a few
hanging out?
years back. No, he was playing the band shell one summer. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
But it was cool. That was cool. At no point was I like, oh man, I wish the rest of Talking Heads was here. It was just I just soaked in the burn.
Yeah.
Felt the burn.
It sure do burn. All right, so let's talk about Meddle a little bit more, and that's Meddle.
LE for those that don't.
Did I spell it
know.
wrong? Yeah,
Meddle. It's not metal, it's metal.
All right, yeah, so this is 1971. So this is the transition from the Syd Barrett era of Pink Floyd to like,
Yes.
I guess you'd say the Roger Waters.
Roger Waters.
Yeah.
Right. Syd Barrett at the time thought he was a glass of orange juice. He was living in a broom closet.
And when you look at like his tenure in the band and influence on it, it's like, oh, but they were writing songs about him for the rest of their
Really amazing.
Yeah.
And right. And
the inspiration and influence and
right. And very open about that too.
yeah. So yeah, Syd Barrett was a member of the band, guitarist. Went insane. Is there a politer way to say it?
No, he went insane, and it's debatable about how he did. I mean, he obviously was like bipolar, and they hadn't figured out what that was yet, and he probably took a bunch of acid and couldn't find his way back out the hole.
Yeah, and then they bring in David Gilmour, and then they're both playing, in the band for a while before Syd Barrett left, and like the line in Dark Side of the Moon. When the band you're in starts playing different tunes, Syd Barrett would be on stage long and the rest of the band in his own world.
See you on the dark side of the moon, baby.
And so much great music written from him existing.
Yeah.
And as a fan of the band, it's like, it's not my favorite era of what they've done.
No, but if you haven't, like, go listen to Piper at the Gates of Dawn and Saucer.
Yeah, Saucerful, definitely.
Because it's fun, and if you haven't heard it before, you're gonna throw it on and you're gonna be like, wow, I don't know if I was expecting this or not. You know,
it's still out there.
It is very different than anything else that was coming out at the time, for sure.
Yeah. So this is
it's good.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's good.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, again, one of the greatest bands of all time. I say Dark Side was like my favorite album as a teenager. I just remember like probably putting that on to fall asleep to, which is an insane album to fall asleep. Clocks in Time or the cash registers and Money. You're like, which now listening to it, I'm like, I kind of hate those parts, but it's such a part of the whole experience of it, right?
Yeah, and they're kind of iconic. It's one of those things where you would play just those little snippets of what it is, or even you hear old school Cash Register, automatically think Pink Floyd.
Yeah, it was amazing songs, great album. Meddle.
Yeah, did you ever do on the Dark Side of the Moon, did you ever do the Wizard of Oz thing?
Yes, I did. And lucky for me, I was able to just find a copy on the internet where someone had synced up the audio to the movie already.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
we had to do it the old school way.
You're like, all right, what time do you hit play? Well, all right.
And there was no internet to check with. It was just like, hey, I heard that it was like the third roar.
Yeah, when the lion
you hit play.
Roars the drum, then you hit play on the album. And then, if the scarecrow syncs up with this, you did it right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We did it right. It sunk up. It sancted it up.
And even if you don't get it exactly right, it's still just an experience.
Works.
It's still just a fun experience. Did you ever do Tool's Anima with The Nightmare Before Christmas?
No.
I'd say try it out. Check out. I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
When do I start that?
I don't know.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just wing it. Hit play on both at any time. And the movie, I think, is shorter than the album for that one. So you'll have a little bit of extra.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the other way. I actually was disappointed, when we did the Wizard of Oz thing when the album ends, when Dark Side of the Moon ends, and you're like, oh, I kind of want to flip it over and start it again and see if it'll keep going.
And I think that's what a lot of people would do. Yeah.
Yeah. But it doesn't.
All right, let's run through the track list of Meddle. So this is 71, 2 years before Dark Side of the Moon. Came out in 73. So the track list, only 6 tracks. But
right.
Boy, do they...
But, okay, start with track 1.
One of these days.
Okay, One of These Days. A very just kind of normal title for a song.
yeah.
And you would think that it's just like, oh, one of these days, right? Yeah. And it even starts, it's like crescendo-y and everything. And the first time you listen to it, you're like, oh, wow, this is and then the voice comes on.
Yeah. And just the driving bass in that song.
Right. But then what does the voice say? One of these days, I'm going to cut you into little pieces. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Did he just say he's going to cut me into little pieces? And then just, wham!
Yeah.
And then tears into it. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
What a great way to start an album.
Buckle the fuck up.
Yeah, man. Yes.
Yeah. So One of These Days, the rest of it's an instrumental song.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just that being the only voice.
Yeah.
They made great.
This album is not lyric heavy.
Yeah. No, not at all.
If you, do the numbers, like total running time to lyrics. Yeah. Not super lyric heavy.
Yeah. So One of These Days, followed by A Pillow of Winds.
As nice. A nice transition from that into A Pillow of Winds,
Which, as you'd imagine, is again a little more mellow of a track, which is something they continue to do. Whenever there's like a big, then there's like a smaller.
And again, this is a good album to go to sleep to once you get unscared from hearing the guy tell you he's going to cut you into little pieces.
Yeah. You're like, okay.
But that's a nice long enough song, and then you ease into Pillows.
Yeah. And then up next, there's Fearless.
Fearless is is probably my favorite Pink Floyd song. Fearlessly, the idiot faced the crowd. That's what we do every night.
Yeah.
Plus that song got me to be a Liverpool fan because the crowd at the end they're singing, and it's Liverpool. They're singing "You'll Never Walk Alone."
There you go. Yeah. Great point. The line about the idiot facing the crowd.
Yeah.
Having done comedy for so long, we really kind of get so removed from that. What people expect of, like, you talk to any random person, they're like, oh, wow, I could never get up and talk to people. How do you do it? And you're like, I don't know how to not do it at this point.
At one time, it may have changed, but it was the number one fear was public speaking, like above death.
There's the classic Jerry Seinfeld joke about that. Like, they pull people and,
Oh, is that a Seinfeld joke?
But the number one fear was public speaking. Number two is death. So if you're at a funeral, you're better off in the coffin than giving the eulogy.
Which is a Seinfeld joke.
Not a great joke, but it's still a joke I think about.
Yeah.
All the time. And especially as I was starting comedy, it's like, oh, this is hard. Most people are terrified of it. All right, well, I don't know what it is. Yeah,
and I think it's hard to explain to people. The only way I try to explain it to people is like, well, it's something that you love doing. So anybody, if you love doing something, you think of it differently. Fears and get nervous and things like it's not that, but it's like, I can't not do this thing.
Yeah.
Like I have to do it no matter, the fear and whatever else, the nervous poops leading up to it. It's always the same. You get on stage and then you get a couple of lines in and you're fine.
Yeah. And the fear isn't, oh, it's going to go bad. They're going to heckle me. It's like, I'm going to get up there and like forget the thing I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Like I'll come up with I'll remember another joke,
Yes.
But the idea of like, oh, I forgot the thing I really wanted to say.
Right. The actual standing in front of people holding a microphone isn't the scary part.
Right.
It's the forgetting what you're going to say into that microphone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Or you're like, I'm doing this bit I haven't told in a while. And then like halfway through, I'm like, wait, I'm missing a few of the connecting dots here to get from point A to B. And then you handle it because, after a while you learn the reflexes of like, okay, well, I can pivot here or if you're in that situation where like, all right, it's not going well, I'm not going to die. I'll live. It'll be okay. I'll come up with something else to try while I'm up there to try and shift gears or win them over or address that the show's weird or something happened or you build these instincts that kind of take away that what people would think the fear is of doing it. Right.
Yeah.
Like we said, the fear is like, oh, I'm going to forget the things I wrote that I wanted to try out Or we're afraid
like
of...
you write stuff, and especially when you're trying out new stuff, and you hope that it's going to go well. But again, you're right. That's not the fear, because at that point, it's like, I just want to get up and say this new thing and get it out of my mouth, and hopefully they'll react okay to it. But if they don't, that's not what I'm afraid of, because I know, okay, well, if they don't react to it, well, then I've got to change that part.
Right. And also the beautiful thing too, after you've been doing this for long enough and you say you have a new bit, go out and you do it a few times, your brain, you automatically kind of know how to edit. You just remember hey, these parts always seem to work.
Yeah.
These parts never get as much of a response. And you just immediately kind of know what to cut or what to shorten,
Yeah.
And I love that about it. Like I said, after a while, these instincts and reflexes kind of erase some of that fear.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, the worst is just all right, well, I don't care about a show going badly. I don't want a show to go badly in front of a peer I respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really what it is. Okay. Diving back into Meddle. So we talked about Fearless.
Yeah.
Next is Saint-Tropez.
Saint-Tropez, which is such a fun little beachy Saint-Tropez.
Some lighter, more mellow moments.
There's definitely some boo-da-ba-doo-ba-doops in there.
Yeah.
Boo-da-ba-doo-ba-doop. So that's a fun one, Yeah.
Yeah. And Seamus.
I was in the kitchen. Seamus, that's the dog. He's outside. And that's another nice little just mellow, almost bluesy, but not quite. I guess it would be what you would think Pink Floyd's version of a blues song would be. Right, yeah. I was in the kitchen. Seamus, that the dog was outside.
A little more straightforward of a song,
It's very Southern to me. You know? It feels like it's very much,
Well, of course,
Bayou.
Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin, very influenced by, American blues guitarists and music. And some songs.
It comes out in this song and Seamus for sure. Yeah. And again, not a long song, but just a fun one to have on there. And fits really well with just all of these songs being a little bit different than the last.
I will say,
a lot different than the last.
Have this memory of being a high schooler and wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, and then some boomer being like, "Oh yeah, we'll name 5 of their songs." Got hit me with that.
You're okay.
And I think I pretty much recited the track list of Dark Side of the Moon to this guy.
There you go.
And then he's like, "All right," and then just walks away. It's who cares? Also, fuck you. But also just have to accept that sometimes the things you like are beyond what it means to you, or
well, don't approach it like that. We were at in Austin when I was living there. We were at the livestock show and rodeo, and there was a kid that was probably about 13, and he had the Dead Milkman cow shirt on, and I was like, and I didn't say, "Yo, name 5 tracks for the Dead Milkman." All I was like, "Dude, you must have some really cool parents,"
right?
And he was like, Yeah, they're the ones that,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and some bands have a great logo, and it just looks fucking cool on a t-shirt. And you know what? If someone's just wearing it because it looks cool,
that's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is that? Yes.
Yeah. And this is a guy who was probably in his 40s or near 50. Why do you need to gatekeep or credibility check 13, 14-year-old, however old? I'm glad that I get it. I understand it, but I've never been that kind of person.
I want to find, so the next time I see a baby that's wearing a Ramones onesie or something, I'm going to go up to them and be like, "Hey man, how many Ramones songs can you name?"
Yeah, next time.
Person that can't speak.
Yeah. Hey baby.
Hey baby. Yeah. Tell me how many Ramones songs you know.
Or same, you see kid Grateful Dead. Yeah, how many times did you see Grateful Dead play with Jerry? But
yeah. Binky.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, man.
Poser.
Yeah, you're raising a poser. Say that to the parents.
Say it to the parents. All right. Which brings us to the last track.
Yeah.
The epic Echoes.
Which I used to have a joke about how that was Echoes is my favorite song to do at karaoke.
Yeah, just a 23-minute song with
There's like 2 minutes of words, if that, and then a bunch of whale noises at the end.
Yeah, it's amazing. Can't talk about Echoes without talking about Pink Floyd live at Pompeii.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think that was maybe 72 when that was.
I think that's right.
70, or it was like shot, maybe they shot like over a week in Pompeii. And then they added additional in-studio footage and B-roll, things that were shot later. So yeah, I think it came out around 72. I looked into this recently. I went to Italy last year and we went to Pompeii and I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm going to see where Pink Floyd played. Like that was why I was excited to go. Also kind of realizing that it's like a whole city, like a lot of it, streets and structures are still there. You know, you didn't see as many of like the preserved looking bodies as I was like,
that's disappointing.
I know, right? I was a little let down, but then, you know, seeing the little stadium arena where Pink Floyd played, I was like, oh, this is fucking cool. And they have halls there that are just dedicated to Pink Floyd. Like you walk in.
Oh, really?
You walk to the left or to the right before you're out into the big open area. Like there's all these pictures and.
Oh, that's amazing.
Just like, yeah, like, hey, this happened here.
So like a little museum exhibit.
Yes.
Of Pink Floyd playing at Pompeii there.
Yes.
That's wicked.
And I was like, that's really fucking cool. I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And it was just a joy to see. And I'm like, just stoked on it, you know? So that was nice. Walking around.
With a tour group?
No tour group.
Really?
Yeah. Just me and my girlfriend walking around, just out doing it. And it's hard to say the size of the ruins of Pompeii, of like how much is still there, which there's a lot. Like you could spend like a whole day there and not even really get to see all the cool little.
Well, then where did all the bodies go? Where'd they put all the bodies? Did they explain that?
No.
Be like, yo, for,
like they're preserved and they're like, moved.
We put them into dead people storage.
Yeah, right. Cold storage. They got to have a locker somewhere. There's like only a few that we saw that were, and they're like replicas at this point too, of course.
Oh, you think they're not the real actual remains?
Probably not in the places where.
Oh, that's super disappointing.
I know, a little let down, but like I said, seeing where Pink Floyd played and seeing the exhibit for it, reading about it and seeing it, was like, all right. And then just kind of doing a little bit of a dive on Wikipedia, reading about how it was made. And, this filmmaker approached the band about doing an experimental film, and the band wasn't super into it, but then they're like, okay, we're going to go here and shoot this. And they got on board. The filmmaker had connections to like the university to like get with like the local government.
The University of Pompeii.
Or Rome or whatever it was. Kind of facilitate, all right, having them allowed to go do it, and the money getting paid to whoever needs to. One of the issues is like having power there. Like they had to like run long lines of cable to get the power needed for the band to play, because the band's like, all right, we're actually going to play live.
Yeah. And
we're not going to use too much like studio overdubbing. But anyway, Pink Floyd live in Pompeii is amazing. Go watch it if you're ever in Italy. Take a little trip out to the ruins and be disappointed by how few corpses you see. But
a little disappointing.
But Echoes, is it titled Echoes Live at Pompeii? Like that concert film? Around the time this album came out, they're playing tracks from this album. Echoes, 20-minute long, like epic
trip.
Yeah, and as a person who also appreciates Fish, hey, I got no qualms against a 20-minute plus.
I mean,
song.
that's one in itself. You could just hit play on that one and go to sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you'll be asleep by the time the whales start making noise.
Yeah. What else in like Shine On You Crazy Diamonds? Like the only other like kind of really like big super epic piece by them, right?
Oh, I mean, yeah, that's that long.
Yeah.
Or approaching that long.
Right.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Nothing on the Wall is that long.
Right. Because even Comfortably Numb, that's like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So yeah, Echoes. It's the whole side B if you're looking at the vinyl.
Echoes.
Yeah, or if you have the cassette, the whole side 2 of the tape is Echoes.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, just that. Hey, this one side of the album is one track.
Yeah.
It's very amazing, and
it's a great journey. That song is a pretty awesome journey.
It feels so like, oh, you're a teenager who discovered guitar and music and weed, and of course you like Pink Floyd, and you should.
I mean, I hate to say like rite of passage.
That's the word I was searching for. It's like, yeah,
for a lot of us, it was, if you grew up in a certain time. It totally was. Yeah, and you were in a certain scene.
Yeah.
Like that's what you did. You sat around and listened to Pink Floyd, man.
Yeah. I mean, and that was like when I found friends that are also into alternative and rock music. And I mean, I'm from a small town in South Carolina where, again, everyone's listening to like top 40 country and rap, you know, and then kind of being like, oh no, music is actually like really deep and diverse and cool, and stuff that isn't current is actually amazing.
Yeah. And it's fun. My friends that have kids, like seeing what they're listening to. And I mean, I don't know a lot of it, you know, but also trying to expose them to older stuff that we grew up on and stuff that's even older than that. Like, you know, Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. I mean, that was like, you know, my parents could have been listening to that stuff if they were into music.
Yeah. As far as like my dad's taste in rock music, it was AC/DC, REO Speedwagon. If a band had letters in the name, he was on board, you know.
The thing that we always like to do was you have a band that you like. We'll read some interviews of theirs or listen to some interviews nowadays, I guess is what it would be. And then find out what their influences were and then go and listen to those bands and then find interviews with those bands and find out what their influences were. And you just keep tracing it back, you know,
I mean,
until you get to, all the black people music that we stole horribly.
It's just a thing about music that's inevitably, has to be addressed. That like, these bands, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, more so with Zeppelin, very directly taking from, their influences. And so it's just amazing that something, made in 71 still is
before both of us were born.
Yeah. Before both of us were born could reach us and like be meaningful and important. And it still, I'm sure, is reaching, young stoners everywhere today.
I hope so. That's the thing. I get, maybe that was the point I was trying to make with talking about my friends' kids and stuff. Is like, I hope this stuff is. I hope this music is still living on with the young people still.
It has to. They'll find it in their own time, like everyone kind of does. What I think is amazing, since music has become more. It's marketed differently. MTV doesn't exist as the function it did before.
Yeah.
And music magazines don't exist in the way.
Right? There's no more Cream or Circus or
or the guitar world and Guitar Player, like those things that
There's
like
barely Rolling Stone anymore.
Right? Yeah, Rolling Stone, like Spin magazine, is that still around? Like is it all online?
You're right. Yeah, in a digital format, sure.
Right. So the marketing thing that actually worked. It put young people onto cool bands and interviews with artists. Like you said, you'd learn about more music that way. That doesn't really exist. Like for,
marketing is such a thing now where it is. Think about it. Your entire life is just listening to ads on top of ads on top of ads.
And everything's like, all right, well, the label paid to get this artist featured on Spotify and on these playlists.
Yeah.
And if something can still kind of organically get out there and reach people, but it's a lot harder. And even before it was harder. And you'd say that also in the 70s through 2000s that labels were just paying to have a record played on the radio. Okay, but it still exposed people to great music. I look at some of the venues here in New York and I'm looking at their lineups to see, is anyone I know coming? I'm like, maybe it's a statement that I'm out of touch with the kids' music, that like there's artists I've never heard of that are playing sold out tours,
right?
Like around the country.
Yeah.
And it's just because of our awareness of music has changed.
Yeah.
As we
had
age,
a younger person here to blow our minds and be like, what? You've never heard of Schnooky Fucklepuss? 5 sold out shows at Webster Hall.
Right. Exactly. And I'm sure they were great. And I'm sure if I went to the show, I'd have a fun time and I'd be open-minded.
Yeah.
But it's amazing the niche of it, right? Like an artist can have enough fans to tour, and even for artists that are playing these sold out shows, like they're still subject to all the costs of touring and all the ways their earnings get sapped away from them. And it's very, difficult for, smaller bands and indie bands to tour financially stable. Looking at bands that I enjoyed in high school and college, like some of them are still around. Some of them are open about just working a day job when, they're not on the road or doing that. And it's like, oh yeah. I mean,
dude, have you seen the documentary Anvil?
No.
The Story of Anvil, the band, the 80s hair band.
It's
so good, dude.
Actually, I have seen it, but it's been so long.
Yeah.
I have to rewatch it.
Yeah, it is really, really good. And they try going back on the road.
Yeah.
And leaving their normal jobs and stuff. And it is hilarious. The movie is super funny. Tragic and funny at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like American Movie.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's a similar kind of documentary as that. Like you've seen people, they have a passion for it and they're trying hard.
And I mean, they were a big band for a minute in the 80s,
Yeah.
and then just, nope, they missed the bus.
Yeah, that's worth a rewatch. I'll have to revisit Anvil and American Movie. Check those out if you haven't seen those. And there was a documentary about I think it's like hired guns, like about like musicians that are hired for studio
musicians.
Yeah, studio musicians and touring musicians and how tough that can be. And I can't remember.
Oh, yeah. And then what was the other one? 20 Feet from Stardom or whatever, about the backup singers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, especially now, like with the state of TV and film production, you hear so much. We do, especially how hard it is to be a working writer or actor. Vast majority of them, aren't very rich, even if you've seen them in shows and you see them pop up as character actors or even a guest starring series regular. It's like getting harder and harder for them to make a living. And even with unions,
apparently that's the deal now, is like the concerts, going on tour is the biggest moneymaker for bands now,
right?
Because they're not making as much money off of their actual songs as they used to,
right?
Because album sales are probably non-existent anymore, right? It's all streaming services, and I mean,
well, I think it was finally in the past few years, vinyl overtook disc sales, like compact discs. Like people are buying vinyl records, people are buying new ones, people are buying reprints. They love it. They like to have something physical. They like to support the artist.
Yeah, man.
And that's great. And then you read that, Taylor Swift sold the most vinyl records last year. It's like, of course she did. And she's going to print 9 colors of every 2 albums she puts out every year.
They're all going to be cleverly marketed.
Right.
And, yeah.
And that's great.
And 12-year-olds are going to buy the shit out of them.
Right. And you know what? Cool. Good for her.
Yeah.
Good for the people who work at those discs.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that money goes the people who are actually crafting.
Nope.
No. Yeah.
Nope.
No. Yeah. So if you're not.
No chance of that.
Yeah. So if you're not Taylor Swift, it's very hard to, same in comedy. Yeah. Unless you're, at the top 1%. Like, right. Most people
I think that's a misconception people have, is like, it's like, the 1% of comics are the ones making all the money. The rest of us are still just doing it for love of the game, basically.
And, I mean, even friends we have
around trying to come up with T-shirt ideas or whatever.
We have friends that have been on Conan who no longer do comedy. Like we have friends who've done Comedy Central and done all the things that you think that you want, and then still
that are these markers, towards a stand-up, or at least being able to pay the bills as a touring comedian, and. Yeah, most of us are not even doing that, but we're still doing it because we love it, man.
Yeah, I think that's a great note to wind down on, right? I mean, kind of dour, like talking about the toughness of the music industry or the entertainment industry. It's always going to be there. You'll have to, I guess, sell your soul to the devil to.
Well, you have, each person's got to decide, like, hey, why am I doing this? And if you're doing it for certain reasons, then more power to you, man. But I mean, there's definitely some decisions I could have made in my career earlier on that probably would have, I may not be sitting here right now.
Yeah, if I had started making TikTok videos and gotten comfortable recording front-facing little bits.
Yeah. Or being like, here, to demean yourself in this way to further your career. Cool.
Are there any more thoughts on Pink Floyd that you want to share before we start to wind down?
I love Pink Floyd. That's it.
Yeah, I love Pink Floyd too, man. Yeah. That's great. I'm
Such a good band.
So glad we got to talk about it.
Right.
I'm going to probably listen to them more after this.
I might listen to them on the way home.
Trey, where can people follow you online?
At Trey Galyon, at TreyGalyon. And then, go to YouTube, Tripping with Trey, my motorcycle adventures down to Texas.
Well, Trey, thanks again for doing the pod. I will probably have you back on, and there'll be more albums to talk about. Yeah.
If you don't, I'd be offended.
Well, thank you so much. And one last thing, is music great?
Music's pretty great.
Music's pretty great.
So that was it. The first episode of the show. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Trey Galyon. Be sure to give him a follow on Instagram and check out what he's doing on YouTube. I'll put the links in the show notes down below or wherever they're at. We have more episodes on the way. You can follow the show on Instagram at Music's Great Pod. And if you have any thoughts, corrections, recommendations, you can shove it up your ass. I'm just kidding. You can send an email to musicsgreatpod@gmail.com. And we also have a voicemail line set up. So that's at 929-515-5528. So if you want to drop us a message for a future episode, that's cool too. If not, no pressure. But again, the number is 929-515-5528. Also, I'm pretty sure I'm legally obligated to tell you to subscribe and leave a review to help other people find the show. I think that's all for now. So talk to you guys soon.
Animals. I'm good with all animals. They all adore me, and I adore them.